Hello everybody, hello. I'm a couple of minutes early, so I'll just sit here and wait for a bit. Hello Kirsty. I thought I'd get in early because oh hi Karen. You never know when you're going to get a hitch. It happens a lot. So I'll just waffle for a couple of minutes, give people a chance to get in. Lovely to be here. And this wonderful little group. Oh, hi Sandra. Good to see you. So yeah, while we're sitting here, I've got this sitting here. This isn't all glued together, but it doesn't. Hi Emma. I thought you might want to sort of kind of see the workings of it as well. So I'll leave that there. Hi Kim. So I will just I'll sit here for a bit longer because I was as I say, I was 2 minutes early, just in case things didn't work. But it looks like they are. Hope you can all hear me. Hi Sandra. Hello Jan. And then we'll go through a few things as to what I'm going to be using and things like that. I even washed all my, well, not all my brushes, I've got quite a few brushes, but I actually washed my brushes that are permanent resident in my water pots. I even changed the water. You're honoured. Thank you Jan, I appreciate that. So yeah, it's quite good actually, the fact that I've actually got clean water for a change. I washed my hands too. Yeah, actually you're right Jan, I did. I've still got my resident plaster as well, which I will keep there. For anybody that doesn't know, I had a little bit of an argument with a Stanley knife the other day. We won't go into details because I'm so clumsy. Hello Noreen. Hello Dominique. Oh, I know Emma, honestly I leave my brushes in water all the time. I am really bad, really bad. And I mean, they're not cheap, are they, brushes? I should just, it takes what, 2 minutes, doesn't it, just to get them out and clean them, but never mind, that's life I guess. But anyway, they're almost kind of dryish now as well, which is even better. So I'll just have a quick look. Oh right, okay, we're gone 1 o'clock, so I can start. This is what I'm going to show you today, and basically the Matchbox is quite large. It's quite a large Matchbox under there, one of our Matchboxes. The main thing I'm going to show you is the tag and the butterfly part of it though, which is here. And very quickly to run through the parts that I'm using, these are some of our 2-part butterflies. I've used some of our jigsaw pieces, just 4 of them, and a circle. I have no idea what that came from, but you're not going to see much of it anyway. And then some of our little keys, and then quite a limited palette. I'm using a couple of these kind of beautiful aqua type bluey greens, and then some coral and antique rose type colours, bit of grey, but that's only in the Matchbox. Actually I'm going to need some grey, I think, for the butterfly, so I do need that. Now one ingredient, I'm going to be using some antiquing cream, and also another ingredient which I'm going to be using is some baby oil. If you follow me, you would have seen this particular demo that I've done with the baby oil, but I thought I could show people in here as well in case you haven't seen this. This is just ordinary common or garden baby oil, which I've decanted into an old Cosmic Shimmer mister. Okay. it's just a little technique I came up with, which is quite interesting. You get all sorts of interesting results, and I'll show you some of the samples that I've done as well, so you can see those. I'm also using a couple of stamps. These are chocolate brock stamps. A butterfly, any old butterfly one is fine, and I've used a bit of scripty stamp for the top of the butterfly. So fairly basic ingredients, nothing. Oh, you've not seen it, Emma, but that's good. Fairly basic ingredients. Oh, embossing powders, white and clear. So obviously some Versamark, but also some archival in grey, and that's about it. And glue, of course, a bit of glue. Right, so first of all, what we're going to do is we're going to actually build up this area first. So you need let's just move those bits out of the way. You need your little circle, and you need your jigsaw pieces, and obviously your little keys, because we're going to stick all this together before we actually put any paint on it. So I'm going to do that first, and then that way it gives it a chance to sort of all dry and set and everything else. And what we want to do is we want to have the circle on the top. So I'm just going to literally plop a little bit of glue on all these parts here, just a tiny bit. Oh, thanks, Jan. Yes, that's the YouTube link for the original oil slick demo that I did. And then we're just going to pop that over there, and essentially what that is going to do is that's just going to glue all those pieces together. Then we can add I'm not sure, Jan, actually. I'm not sure if you are. Then I'm going to add oh, no worries, Sandra. Yeah, have a look later. I'm going to add these keys, so I'm going to pop that one on there. I could actually move that out a fraction, I think. That's it. I'm going to pop that on there like that, and then that is that key that I'm going to pop on there. The good thing about using wet glues as well is, of course, you can move your bits around. It's not sticking too quickly, which is quite handy, because you might sort of think, oh, I just want to maneuver that a little bit and that a little bit, which is quite good. That one's still a bit loose. That's it. And then I'm going to stick these keys down. That will go, oh, it doesn't matter which way round. I've put the glue on the wrong side. It doesn't matter, we just pop it on the other way. That's it. So that will go on there like that. Oops, I've got sticky fingers now, so of course it's just pulling it straight off again. That's better. And then the last key I'm going to put on there like that. And now I just want to leave all that to dry. We can move on and do other bits, and we can come back to that when that's all fully set and dry. So I shall move that gently out of the way, and then what I want to move on to do now is we can start on the tag. So all we do first of all, literally with some white paint. This technique I quite like, to use a pale coloured base, but experiment, see what you see what you think. You just experiment with one or two colours. That's all you need to do. You'll see how it sort of comes about as we go through the demo. So what's quite important when you're putting your base coat on is to try and put some around the edges of your substrate, your base that you're using, in this case the tag, because everything gets quite sort of wet, and obviously with the baby oil as well, it's quite sticky. So what basically happens is you're creating a seal around the edge, and the thing with grey board, as tough as it is, if you get too much liquid in around the edges, it can start to separate. It can be used in a good way as well, because obviously it means you can tear it and you can distress it and everything else. But if you don't actually want the layers to come apart while you're doing this technique, then it's best just to put a little coat of paint around the edges like this. Lots of hellos. I see people coming in. Hello Jean, Jane, Margaret, Celia, Nikki. Good to see you all. See you all popping in there. Okay, and by putting the paint around the edge, as I say, that's just going to seal it, help to seal it against the moisture that you're going to create by doing this technique. Okay, so I'm going to put that in my nice clean water and I'm going to give this a blast. I've got a couple of heat guns here. I'm going to use the fast one. My mat that I'm crafting on doesn't like heat, so I'm going to pop it on this bit of acrylic. Yes, Kim, you're quite right. Actually, when you're doing this technique, the baby oil does tend to go everywhere. Oh, hello Dawn from Australia. Lovely to see you. Okay, so that's nice and dry. So what we need to do now is we're going to put on some of our colour, so our first layer of colour, if you like. So I'm just going to pull this mat in a little bit, and then I'm going to get my paler of the kind of aqua colours that I have here. I'm going to pop some of that on to my craft mat there, and I want to add a reasonable dose of water here, like that, and I'm going to give that a good mix. So you've got a kind of a wash consistency, but you've got probably a little bit more paint than you would normally have in a wash. Give that a good mix up, and then we're going to put a little spritz, nothing too major, of water over your tag as well. Okay, you have to work fairly quickly at this stage because we don't want the paint to start to dry out. We need it to stay wet until we decide that we're going to dry it. So you want to have your baby oil ready. As Kim said earlier, if you have a box to spray into, that's better in a way. When I had a clear up, I did end up mopping baby oil off of lots of things that were on my desk at the time. So either have a really clear desk or have a box. So now we're going to add a coat of this paint. What I like to think is less is more all the time. You can do as many layers of this as you like. So if it all seems a little bit wishy-washy and pale to start with, you can just do another coat. And of course you can add colours. As I say, I will show you some samples of others I've done in a little while. And then we're going to get our baby oil and we're going to spritz that all over. Now what you'll notice, I'll try and hold this up to the camera, is already you have got droplets where the oil has met the water. You've now formed lots of little bubbles and droplets, and what we want to do is we want to start to dry the tag like that. Okay, now this is where you can experiment with your heat guns. Okay, if you use a slower heat gun like this one, as you're moving as you're drying this off, you're not moving the paint around very much. Okay, so you're not sort of doing too much with the colour. You can move your tag and you'll see that the oil will move, and you can dry this really slowly. Okay, or if you want to move the paint a bit more, you can use a faster heat gun, and you'll notice that this will really move the paint and the oil around. So you want to experiment to decide which one you want, okay, and which effect you want. Make sure any drawers are closed, Sandra. Yes, I guess you probably had an issue there, did you? So what will basically happen is the paint will dry, but the oil will remain. So as you move this around, all the time you can see paint moving, you know that when you go to wipe this up afterwards, wipe your oil off, you're going to wipe off any paint that's still moving. Okay, so you need to decide when you want to stop drying. I'm going to try and keep going until all the paint is dry. All the time it's going to look shiny on the top because this is your oil on there. Okay, so we'll keep going, and then you can see that that paint now is not moving. Or a few more hellos. Hello Lois, hello Lynn, hello Nikki, hello Pauline, first time watching me. How it's good to see you, my love. Right, so now what we've got here is we've got the paint dry, but the oil is sitting on the top. So you get a baby wipe or a cloth or something. Don't rub, you just want to lay this over the top. Just give that a little tap like that, little pad all around, and that will lift off your oil. Okay, don't rub because you potentially will rub the paint off. Then you can give it another little blast. And then what I'll do is I'll hold that up to the camera so you can see more closely what that looks like. Now you could leave that as that if you wanted to. This is where the choice is yours, or you can add more layers of colour. So it really depends what you want to do. Okay, so I think just for the sake of this demo, I'm going to do one more colour. So while we've got our paint sitting here, we can get a darker aqua, which I'm going to give it a good shake, I think. We'll add that to that paint that we've already got there, and then mix that in. It's very subtle. Okay, there's not a lot of difference. I'll show you some samples in a minute where you've got two different types of colour. Yeah, a bit like marbling actually, Pauline, and you do get different effects every time, which is really cool. So I've got a slightly darker colour. I'm going to just spritz this tag because I want to keep it wet while I'm putting this on. I've got my baby oil ready. Okay, then I'm going to give this a good coat over again. Like that. And then again, while that's wet, we want to spray on our baby oil. Wipe it off your arm, off your hand, off your sleeves. It's a messy one, so and then this time I'm going to use a slightly faster heat gun, and that way I can really move the paint around a lot. Kim, I think it's a size 10 tag. It's quite a large one. Now, that hasn't quite dried all the paint, but I want to lift a bit more paint this time. So I'm going to pop this down, and then that will... Now, what you can also do very, very carefully is you can just rub a little bit more, little tiny areas, if you just want to enhance the white there. Emma, yes, I got a bit addicted when I did this. It does give you nice soft hands. Okay, so you can see there's two different colours on there. Okay, so that essentially you can go on and on and on with all different layers, as many as you like. I think at this stage what I'll do is I'll show you some of the other samples that I've done. You can also see that this is totally different from the first sample that I did to show you today. It's because I've used a little bit more paint on this one. You get a different effect each time, and it just makes life a bit more interesting, really. So let me just quickly tidy this up. Try and stay as tidy as I can. That's it. Right, so let me show you some of the other samples. This is obviously the one that I did originally. I tried to do a little bit of embossing on there. I wasn't overly keen on how it worked out. I was experimenting with things. But you can see when you use two different colours, and you can see the different bubbling and marbling and everything else you can get. And this is also with a bit of stamping on it, so again that's a little bit different. Then we've got different colorways. I did a little bit of stamping afterwards. That acted like a resist. So you've got does it sting on your finger cut? No, it's fine. It's I've got a really good plaster on there, so it's not getting under there. I'm all right, thank you, Steve-O. This is a grey one, so that was using two different greys. This one I had the two different colours, and then this was with some clear embossing enamel that I put on there, and I just stamped into it with did the triple embossing and then stamped into it with a rubber stamp, and then highlighted the stamping with some white antiquing cream. So that was something else. This is using some reds with grey, so that's another example. Then there's a couple of purple ones which were using the same colours essentially. I think this might have had a grey cream base, and that one had a white base. I think the colour I did use for the rust effect, I think was a burnt orange, Steve-O, in the Americanas. So it was one of these, but it was burnt orange, I think. And then this is some reds, and again you can build up with different colours. You can decide how much you want to take off and everything else. So that's just all different examples of this particular technique. So that's our tag so far. Again, this one was doing it with a little bit more white. I didn't have quite so much colour on there, so there, you know, you can go more or less, whatever you want to do, but just getting the general idea of the technique. So from there, we'll just see if our little construction is dried. Yes, it has. So what we can do with this is I want to give this a coat of paint as well. Pauline, I've used chalk paint, I've used Deco Art acrylics. When I did the demonstration originally, I think other people were using different acrylics. Nobody has said that they had any problem with any of them. So as far as I'm aware, you can use any acrylic, because essentially what creates the effect is the water and the oil. So it's really not got anything to do with the paint. It's the mixture of, as long as it's a water-based paint. I mean, obviously if you're using an oil paint, then you probably get a whole different ball game there. But it's the effect of the water and oil that's creating this technique. So I would say yes, anything will work. So with this one that we glued together earlier, I'm just going to give this a coat of paint. Oh yeah, you see Celia, you know, she's used the paper artsy frescoes, and yeah, you can use pretty much anything, I think. So that's that. So I'll give this a coat of paint first of all, because what I'm going to do is exactly the same technique on this with different colours. But the nice thing about using it on a textured surface like this is you can build up sort of colours in your little grooves and everything else, depending. You just play with it and experiment with it until you get it how you want it. And I must admit, I've baby oiled lots of things now. It's almost quite embarrassing when you actually say to somebody, oh yeah, I'm just at the moment I'm using baby oil and paint, and they wonder what on earth you're doing. So but yeah, anyway, we only need to do the top side of this piece, so we're nearly there, and then we can give this a good dry. Oh, you've had to add it to your shopping list, have you, Jan? Yeah, I know. In fact, I bought a really, really big pot of baby oil because I was going to use it with my coloured pencils. And it didn't really work out how I was hoping it would. So I have this big pot of baby oil thinking, what on earth am I going to do with it? And then I was just messing around, and I thought, well, you know, oil and water and all that, and I'll give it a go. And this is how it all turned out. And it did take a little bit of practice and a little bit of playing, because I tried different ways of doing it. Oh, your hubby asked why was there baby oil in the Asda delivery. Well, yeah, I know, it's got to be done, hasn't it, really? But it's, I mean, what I think is so fun about it is the fact that you don't need an awful lot of different, you don't need like really expensive equipment, you don't need a lot of different paints or colours or anything else, and you can just experiment with what you've got. Or the only purchase you're going to have is the baby oil, which is not overly expensive. Right, so that's all nicely primed with any old white paint, is absolutely fine. Pop that in there, and then just have a quick clean up. Like that. Okay, and then we'll just give this a little bit of a, and what I'll do is I will give that a dry first of all. Let's use my fast one. I think Lois asked me if this was a new heat gun. No, Lois, it's an old one. I actually prefer this one, but it's a little bit volatile. It doesn't always work, so I have to have a standby. And for this technique, it's quite handy to have two different types of heat gun. Jan was actually saying to me the other day that she had like a heat gun in each hand when she was doing this technique, and she was going a little bit with that and a little bit with that, and it was, yeah, all quite amusing, really. only half of it heats up, Emma. Oh, okay. Right. Okay, so I've done that. So now we're going to go on to our first colour. Whoops, excuse the bang right by my microphone. We're going to go on to our first colour, which is this one. And no, Tony didn't ask why I got baby, because I already had it actually, Steve-o, which was okay. And yes, we won't go down the conversation of Spurs and Arsenal, shall we? It's not the appropriate time, is it really? Bless your heart. Okay, so I'm going to again do what we did before and get a nice clean brush. Okay. Right, so I've added a little bit of water to this, going to make it a bit, mix it in really well, and I'm going to make it a little bit more watery by just spritzing onto here, just a tad, nothing too much. Have your baby oil ready in your spritzer, and then we're going to put a good coat of this colour on. Is the orange? Yeah, this orange, this colour is the Deco Art acrylic Peaches and Cream Dominique. Yeah, all the paints I'm using are acrylic, and in fact all the ones I'm using today are made by Deco Art. Okay, so now we're going to, while that's wet, we're going to give that a spritz with our oil, like that. Get that out of the way, and then I'm going to pop that back on my block, and we'll dry that off in a minute. Let me just wipe that up. Okay, and then again, we've got that separation. You can move your oil around it or move your paint around, however you want it to go. And then we get our gun and we start drying it off. And as I said before, we're drying the paint, not the oil. The oil was just going to sit on the top. Probably if you dried it long enough it would evaporate, but I haven't sat there for that long to do it. And you can keep moving this around while you're drying it to move the paint around, and it'll just give you all different sorts of drips and everything else, all those sort of different looks and techniques. And you know when the paint is dry because it will stop moving. The oil will move, but the paint will stay where it is. And you'll know then that the paint is dry underneath. Clean baby wipe, don't rub, just place that over like that. Lift that up. And then if I hold that up, you can see the effect of that one. Okay. And then what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to go in with another slightly darker colour. This is Antique Rose, but you could use the burnt orange or whatever you have. I think I used the burnt orange on the first one, so it'll be interesting to see how this looks. Add this to your paint already, because we don't want to waste anything too much really. And then again we're going to give this a little spritz with water, and we're going to put the second colour on like this. Get it in all your nooks and crannies. And then while that's wet, get your baby oil, give that a spritz like that, and then we'll dry again. I think this time I'll use the fast one because that will move the paint around a lot more. And again, I don't want the paint to get completely dry on this one. And the reason I don't want that to happen is because I still want to see some of the layers underneath. So you can lift it when it's not quite dry. You can see how much of it was still wet. That's all coming up. And then when you lift that, that then exposes more of the colour underneath. So if I lift this up and show you, you can see what I mean. Hopefully you can see that okay. So very simple to do. You can get really interesting backgrounds for your projects and all sorts of things just by literally using a couple of colours and some baby oil. So really, really simple. So I'm just going to mop all this up, do a bit of a clean up, because it really does like to get everywhere. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to let this dry right off, actually, because what we're going to do on it, the next step on it, is to put some antiquing cream in. No, it's not an ATC, Jan. It's too small. It was just a circle that I had. The diameter of it, I could probably tell you actually, is it's 46 millimeters diameter. So I want to do some antiquing cream next, but I want it to really dry off. So I'm going to go on to another stage first of all, and then come back to this, and then we'll go from there. Yes, I've decanted the oil into an old Cosmic Shimmer bottle, Lois, because it had a better spray on it. No, you don't only have to do it on thick grey board. I've done it on MDF as well, and it works just as well on MDF. As to do it on paper, you might need to gesso first. Have a little experiment. The only issue you're going to find with it is obviously it will curl, but it should flatten out again once it's completely dry. But have an experiment. But definitely you can do it on MDF if you've got that. And Jan, you've done it on a playing card. Yeah, so I guess because the playing card has probably got a coating, that would help stop it all sinking in really, really badly, because it does get quite wet. You know, you have to bear that in mind. Right, so we're going to move on to doing the butterfly next. Okay, now this is much more simple. It's just a case of some colour and stamping. Yeah, that could happen, couldn't it, Steve? Actually, there'll be a run on baby oil now. Everybody will rush out and buy it. Right, so for the bottom part of this butterfly, this part, we're just going to go back to our original Sea Breeze colour that we used, and I'm going to pop that on there like that. Could you use photo paper, Dawn? Maybe. I tell you what, I've got some photo paper, so I will grab some out and I will experiment after this live and see if it works. There is a possibility it could work. So, okay, so we're going to put some of our Sea Breeze on there like that. And then I'll pop that in there. And then we want to dry this off. Okay, nice and dry. And then I'm going to use a butterfly stamp, and I'm going to use some grey ink, and I'm going to use some clear embossing powder. So I'll make sure I've got the right one. Yeah. For any of you that haven't embossed before, you need something, a folded up piece of paper that you can tip all your powder into. So you literally ink up your stamp. Hope this doesn't move the camera around too much. And then the easiest way to get this right in the middle is to take your board to your stamp. So you can literally pop that right in the middle there, so you know that it's in the right place. Give that a good press down, and then you have your stamping there. And then very quickly before it dries, we want to just sprinkle on your clear embossing powder like that. Tap that off, and we'll tip that in there like that. Get that out of the way. And then we'll just heat set your embossing powder. Shouldn't take too long, they're quite fine lines. So it being grey rather than black, you kind of get a nice subtle look to it, rather than it being sort of too dark, which black sometimes can be a little bit on the dark side. That is just going to sit over that, so that actually will look quite nice. You've just got all your little lines of your butterfly showing through that gap there. So what we're going to need to do first of all with this is we need to get some grey paint, which I've got some here. We'll pop a bit of that on the palette, and then with a very fine paintbrush, I just like to go around the edge very carefully. Because it's laser cut board, the edges are normally fairly dark anyway, but what it does do is it just covers any hint of any colour that you've just put over the edge, so you don't have to be too particular with it. You're just neatening it up really, like that, and then go around that side. There. So that's just neatened up those edges. And then while we've got the grey out, we're going to pop some grey onto this piece here. Let's move this out of the way, you can see it a bit better against the white background. Like that. And again, you don't need to be too particular, you can just run a little bit around the edges, but as I say, because it's laser cut, it's already quite dark, so it's no biggie. Oh, hi Mary. Okay. Nearly there. That's it. Okay, so I have literally just painted a coat of grey on there. So I think the first one I did might have been a slightly darker grey. Oh no, maybe not, not sure. But anyway, it's really not important. It's a little grey. And then I'll pop that on there and we'll just give that a dry. Now you want to make sure to do this next stage that your paint really is quite dry, okay, because you're going to be putting your white embossing powder on this time, and if your paint is a little bit damp, then the embossing powder will sit on the paint, so you need to make sure that it is pretty dry. I'm just touching up a couple of little bits that I've missed in my haste. Like that. And then we'll just pop that out the way. This time I'm going to use a scripty stamp. I always have to double check because the amount of times I stamped this one upside down. But I'm going to use Versamark this time. But again, you don't need to use an acrylic block if you don't want to. You can just take your butterfly to your stamp like that. Give that a good push down. Like that. And then we'll get our little folded in half piece of card, and this time we want the white. Yeah, that's the white one. Tap that off. What is the name of the kit? What for this one? I think Jan's put up a few links to all the different items that I've used. However, I was asked to put together a kit for this, so if you give me a couple of days or a day, I'll sort out a little kit and put it up online, so you can just buy the whole thing. But as I say, Jan has popped up the links of the existing products that we have. Right, so we've now got the white embossing powder on there. So I'm going to grab my heat pad again, and we're just going to set that white embossing powder. Like that. So that's simply all you need to do for your butterfly. So all we need to do with this now is literally just glue it together. So we'll get our glue and we will pop that on there. Thank you, Dominique. Right, okay, Kim. Yeah, I'll get that sorted out. It shouldn't take too long. Thank you, lovely. Right, so we've just glued our butterfly together like that, nice and easy. If you wanted to, you could sort of touch up your edges. It's up to you. I'm not going to be too precious about it today. Don't think I need to. Right, so I'm going to pop that to one side. Now we can come back to this little fella now, which is quite a bit drier now. Now if you wanted to, you could leave it like that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with leaving it like that. But I'm going to use a bit of antiquing cream. This is made by Deco Art, and for anybody that hasn't used antiquing cream before, basically it's like an acrylic paint, however it doesn't ever set, so even when it's dry you can wipe it back, and it's really good for creating like an antiquing effect. So if you had, for instance, something you'd run through an embossing folder and you wanted to pick up some of the texture that you've created, it's really good for that. I think I showed you all this tag earlier on, and basically this is just embossing enamel which has been stamped into with a stamp, and then I painted the antiquing cream all the way across over the top of it, and then you can just wipe it back, and that then creates like your antiquing effect. So what I'm going to do with this now is I'll pop some on my palette, and I'll grab another brush. I need one that's not too dirty. That one looks like it's clean. And then you paint over everything with your antiquing cream. You want to get it in all your little nooks and crannies, and the reason why you want to do that is because they're the areas where you don't want it to lift up. Now don't worry, because you can essentially wipe all of this back off even if it dries, and that is the beauty of the antiquing creams. Let me get some more of that out. I think in the Deco Art range they do a white, a grey, a kind of red oxide, a patina and a brown, and they're all really useful. So you want to get this white in, as I say, in all these little nooks and crannies here. They are very good, aren't they, Steve-O? You know, I use them quite a bit, really. You can create a very similar effect just using ordinary paint, but you have to be really quick, because once the paint starts to dry you then can't wipe it back, whereas this you can. And I will show you, even if you dry it with a heat gun, it won't set it. Thank you, Jan, you're a star. Oh, I need to take that off my plastic because it'll go up like an air balloon. Okay, so that's pretty dry. Now you can use a baby wipe to wipe it back quite easily. I can show you how easy it is to wipe back. You see that's coming off straight away. But I do find baby wipes can be a little bit on the harsh side because they're so wet. So you want to either dry your baby wipe off a little bit, or I find if you just get a normal kitchen towel and just spritz a tiny bit of water on it. See you later, Jan. Thank you, darling. Just spritz a bit of water and you have a bit more control as to how much you take off, because it's not just wiping the whole lot back off again. You have a little bit more control, as in whether you take a little bit off or a lot off. And as you can see, you can still leave patches of white, but then wipe more away to reveal more of the colour that you had underneath. Keep using a fresh part of your kitchen towel. And you can see you can go right back to your original colour if you want to, or you just work on areas so your more exposed areas are not so covered in your white, and your nooks and crannies are covered in the white, so it just gives that nice effect. When it comes to sealing it though, you have to be quite careful, because if you use a wet sealant, you're potentially just going to paint it all off again because it can mix. So I find if you, I get matte varnish, and you can just put some on a kitchen roll, and you can just dab it on without moving the antiquing cream around, and then that way the matte varnish will hold it so it's set, but you won't be actually taking it off with the matte varnish. So there you can see that you've left your antiquing cream on in various areas but not in others. So Pauline, I'll put them up on our Tando Creative website, my love. Okay, just keep an eye out on there and they'll go up on there. Thank you very much. So you can see that you've got your antiquing cream around in little nooks and crannies, but not all over you, so you're still exposing some of your colour there. Right, so that's that. So all our component parts are essentially done. This is one of our matchboxes. All right, this is the large one. What I've done is I've painted it. It all comes flat packed. I've painted the inside grey and then glued it together. And then it comes also with the inner drawer, and that goes in there, and you can fill it with, I think it comes with some cards, and you can decorate your cards and what have you. So I haven't quite got round to decorating all of that, but I won't. I'm only going to do it simply anyway. It was more important that I showed you this technique today. This particular size tag fits on quite nicely on there. So basically we can then construct everything. So you can go with this one that I did earlier. I actually quite prefer the lighter one myself, but you could paint your background a paler colour and then put that on, and I think that would look just fine if you went with a whiter background on the back. I actually quite like that one, I think, so I'm going to stick with that one, but I'll go with this one that I've decorated today, and that will fit over the top, and then it doesn't really matter, both the butterflies are the same, so that will go onto there. So what I'll do is I'll get it all glued down. I mean, basically you can see what it's all about, but I'll get it all glued down and I'll pop a picture up in the group with it all completed so you can see. And that's about it, guys. So I hope I've shown you something new today, and I hope you're all going to rush out and buy some baby oil. No questions asked. And yeah, I would love to see what you create. Please do tag me if you post anything up, because I'd love to see what you create from this little demo. And thanks again to the group for asking me to do a demo. I've thoroughly enjoyed myself. So Thanks guys, thanks you for joining me, and I hope I'll see you again very soon. Okay, bye for now.